Now.
Okay.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long day.
Good.
I'm happy it's nearly over, and I'm really happy talking to you, Rachel.
Very much mutual. We could chat for hours. We
Absolutely,
won't. Nobody worry. We won't, but we could.
we could. But we'll start now.
Yes.
So don't worry, people, we're not going to talk too much. So, hi everybody. My name is Mirit Hoffman. I'm an attorney. My main focus is estate planning and elder law, and basically anything to do with taking care of people when they reach significant crossroads, and that is mainly wills and enduring power of attorneys and prenups for second marriages, and a lot of things relating to people with dual citizenships, Israeli and US. Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi there. My name is Rachel Weinstein. I am an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. I'm licensed in Israel and Illinois. I did not pick the IL places intentionally, but there you go. And I work with folks going through transitions, going through a variety of mental health experiences, things like, again, I said transitions, death and dying, grief. I worked in hospice for many years. Also working with folks who have either they have children who are LGBTQ or they themselves are LGBTQ, particularly in the Orthodox Jewish community, because that brings about a whole other set of issues. And I meet with people in Beit Shemesh, and I meet with people by Zoom, and yeah, and that's just a little bit of what I do during the course of the day. So
That's awesome. And we are very excited with our podcast series called Caring for an Aging Parent. That's what we're going to be
absolutely.
discussing. And today our topic is it a burden or a privilege to take care of your parent, which is a pretty big topic to discuss, right, Rachel?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So why don't you start?
Okay. So when I was doing some research for this, I also worked in with the elderly in nursing homes and again hospice, and work with some elderly folks now. And so just putting some of the research together, thinking about is it a mitzvah? Is it a good deed? Which I know is not exactly what that means, but we'll leave it at that. Is it a mitzvah? Is it an obligation? Is it a duty? Is it a gift? To take care of your elderly parents when they need. And the short answer is yes to all of it. So, but there are obviously different ways that gets broken down. I'm gonna just start off a little bit with a little personal story. When my mom was ill about 11 years ago, she was still in the States. I live in Israel, and I was by and large the only one who could take care, who could meet with doctors, meet with her, talk about the crisis that she was in. And so I think it's fair to say that it definitely felt like a bit of a burden. I had to pack immediately, leave. I didn't know what was going on. Got on a plane from Israel, so there's the fear, there's the I don't know what's happening, there was the expense, there was, my children were much younger. It was a lot. And it was definitely a burden to get on that plane and go and not have any idea what I was about to walk into. It was also my duty to speak to the doctors, to speak with my mother, to speak with other family members, and to do what it was my mom needed me to do, and also do what I needed to do in terms of how do I make sure that whatever paperwork she needs is in place? How do I make sure that she's set up, that I don't end up having to make certain very important decisions when my mind is just not in that place. So that was intense. That was a duty. It was also a gift. It was also really a gift because to I got to speak to my mom in ways that I couldn't speak before. That, we had a bit of a difficult relationship sometimes, and being able to speak to her and telling her that I admired her, which is not something that I think, ever really done before. But being able to do it in a way that I felt safe, that I did my absolute best to make sure she felt safe. And we really spoke like two adult women. And that's a gift that's with me forever. Um, Another thing that ended up being a gift, I don't know that I would have said that at the outset, was that when I lost my dad when I was much younger, and I underline and emphasize much younger because I didn't know what I didn't know. And when my dad was very, very ill, um, the doctors asked my mom and I, what should we do in case we have to make certain end of life decisions? And I very naively said, I don't care what you have to do everything, save his life. I wouldn't have given the same answer years later, and I didn't with my mom. And I just wanted to make sure that she was as comfortable as possible if that's what happened, and certainly didn't want to cause her any more pain. And so, knowing the mistake I made with my father gave me the gift of being able to do better with my mom. And I have apologized to my dad profusely, and I hope that I made the right decision and then carried that through with my mom so I could, um, that making the mistake was the gift for my mom. The last thing that was, people may not expect this answer, but it was also kind of funny. No, there's nothing funny about having taken care of an elderly parent for the most part. It's not a joyride for sure. But in my mom's confusion, she had once asked me in a hospital room, Rachel, go open up the musical refrigerator. And I thought clearly my hearing was going, and she opened up the musical refrigerator and she doubled down on it. And I said, what are you talking about? Open it up. And I made the mistake of saying there isn't one, and that didn't work out, but she kept insisting. I don't know how I eventually we shifted gears, but it became a joke, not making fun of her, God forbid, but when I spoke to my family, called them back in Israel, maybe my kid said maybe the bologna sings, maybe the tuna fish talks, maybe there's a trumpet player no one's ever seen before. It made a really hard moment, and really quite a testament to how confused she was and how out of it she really was. It added some levity to it. And now, I used to say musical refrigerator and it didn't make me feel very happy. Now it kind of brings a smile to my face because it was a very interesting, odd kind of moment. And so taking care of your parent is really, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things rolled up into one.
It's really interesting what you're saying because I think family is a lot of things rolled into one. I mean, not just
Absolutely.
elderly parents, as a parent to a small child. Sometimes, it's rough, and other times it's really fun, and sometimes it's nostalgic, and sometimes it's
Right.
like, can you just take her and bring her back when she's much older? So it doesn't, you don't love that child or you don't love that parent. It's just,
Right.
I think it's just waves. It's just waves of emotion all the time, all the
Right.
time. I think the
Right.
differences with elderly parents is that when you have an elderly parent, you're usually a parent yourself, or maybe even a grandparent yourself. And
Right.
there's so much juggling that needs to be done that sometimes it feels too much. And when it feels too much, you might feel you're being guilty that you're feeling too much, which sort of opens up a
Right.
cycle of emotions that are just waves and you don't know how to handle it. You don't know what to do with it. You feel maybe you're a bad child because you're feeling angry or
Mhm.
frustrated at your parent, but really it's nothing to do with it. It's just you're overwhelmed and you're juggling a lot.
When with that, when we come into the world, we obviously we don't know this, so I'm going to use these words and just let's sort of make a little bit of an assumption here, but we come into the world assuming that our needs will be met. Thank God we don't remember how helpless we all are when we start out in this world. But the expectation isn't that as a 3-month old, as a 4-year old, we're going to do everything. In general, things are done for us. That is the way the parent-child relationship is supposed to be. So when you become a parent, if you are able to do that, you are intentionally taking on the role of, I am now going to be the caretaker. That's now my role. When you become that caretaker for the parent who used to take care of you, it can sometimes feel very, can feel like an imbalance. No, 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 no. I'm the child. You're the grown-up, you're the parent, you take care of me. I have a child, I take care of that child. This is the natural order of things, except for when it's not. So that balance is very, very difficult. And I was actually thinking earlier that um, my daughter was trying really hard to put her newborn down for a nap, and he just was not having it. Now, of course she loves him, and of course he's just as smushy, and of course all of that other stuff. But in that moment, listening to a child cry because he just can't get his circadian rhythm to come together, yeah, that didn't feel like fun. It didn't feel necessarily like a gift. It felt a little bit of an obligation. Like, dear child, please stop crying, I need you to go to sleep. But of course that doesn't mean, and now there's no love, of course not. So yeah, there are waves and there are certain expectations. It is normal, despite how it may have felt to my poor daughter today. It is normal that a newborn will be fussy and not go to sleep when we want them to. It's not quote unquote normal to have to talk to your mom about there not being a musical refrigerator in the room. That's not a normal thing to do. And yet, I'm here to tell the musical refrigerator tale. So I think that one of the things that is vital about how much of your taking care of your parents, whether it's end of life or it's mom and dad can't, either or, can't live alone. They need to have a little bit more assistance. They need someone to set out their medications, whatever it is. A lot of it, I think, really depends on the nature of your relationship before any illness or debility started. Because let's just call it like it is. If you don't get along with your parents, this is an even harder issue. It's hard when you love them and everything's great and everyone's respectful. And life is just, generally speaking, pretty awesome. It is significantly harder when you don't really like each other. And you don't necessarily want to spend a whole lot of time together. And now you have to make this level of decision. Like, I don't want to talk to you about what ice cream flavor. I don't want to talk, for sure, I don't want to talk to you about your doctor, right? And then, it becomes, I would love to say you don't have a choice, but, excuse me, I would love to say you have a choice, rather, excuse me, but to an extent, you don't. Someone's going to have to make that decision, whether it's you, a sibling, whoever. Um,
You
so
know what? I'll make it a little bit harder. Let's add something to this.
oh, sure.
What about children who were, who felt abused by their parents, who felt like their
Mm-hmm.
parent really didn't love them or didn't do things for them or weren't there for them when they needed? There's always this thing about, and I actually had clients tell me sometimes I feel like I want to do like a payback to my parent. Like now they need me. Well, now I'm not there. Now they need
Right.
me,
I'll
but
show you. Right.
exactly, exactly. I'll show
Right.
you. Or
Right.
there was a case, somebody spoke to me about the fact that her parents, it was really weird. Her parents used to punish her by not giving her treats. Like she would eat the treat in front of her face, the mother, and not give it to the child. That would be the punishment. It wouldn't be enough to not give it to her. It would be more so to sort of dangle it in front of her face and not let her have it.
Mm.
And what
Right.
happened was this parent had Alzheimer's and she was losing a lot of weight. And she was living with this daughter and she was losing a lot of weight. And the social worker came to visit her and she was like, why is your mother losing a lot of weight? And it took her such a long time to realize, without her doing it on purpose, that she was sort of semi-starving her mother as payback. It was payback. And
Right.
only when the social worker sort of dug deep and to find out what is going on did she suddenly
Mhm.
realize that's what's going on.
Right. And in a situation like that, I would definitely, again, it's very easy to speak, so I'm going to speak in generals, but that's the kind of situation where I might, as the social worker, say, maybe you taking care of mom in your house is not a good idea for both
Absolutely.
of you. Not
Absolutely.
as a punishment, not as a shame on you, but as a, you are not emotionally able to do this, and let's just acknowledge it. And mom needs different, she needs better care. And if you can't do that, let's acknowledge it and let's make sure she gets the care that she needs without you having to, give her the treats or whatever the situation is.
Right.
Yeah, if there's abuse, if there's however deep the pain is in the relationship, that's going to be largely reflected in how people care for their parents. And I wish I had a statistic on it, but I would say that overall, whatever that number is, most people who basically get along with their parents can take good care and can, if they don't know how to speak to the doctor, or they don't know how to speak to mom or dad or whoever, they can get the resources and help. But there are absolutely people who, if the basis of the relationship is so painful and fraught, it's going to be a lot harder to take care of them, when that burden is at that point, when the burden is on you. And there is no shame. I cannot stress or emphasize this enough. There is no shame in saying, I cannot do this by myself. I don't care if you are a bazillionaire. I don't care if you have more resources than God Himself. If emotionally you can't do it because it's too hard to see your parent decline, because you don't have the emotional wherewithal, you really don't know what you don't know, even when people tell you what it is you need to know. There is no shame in getting placement for a parent, getting somebody else to help you take care of that parent, because the whether it's the Jewish community standard, or whether it's our own guilt, or whether it's whatever, we owe it to our parents. We need to do that. That is beautiful, and I very much appreciate it. But there was no way that I could have taken my mom, taken care of her in her home from Israel. There's no way I could have brought her to Israel. It was not, there were so many reasons why. I had to do the best I could do. Did I do the best? I can only hope I did. Make sure you do your research. If you have to look into placement, make sure that you are, do your homework. Yeah, you are going to have to make a trip or get, a proxy to go and check out a facility or whatever it is. But do the best you can, the absolute best that you can, because needing help is not a bad thing. It doesn't make you a bad child, a bad anything. It makes you a human being who can't do everything by themselves.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. I think when you acknowledge that also, it makes it easier for you. It doesn't, it sort of, and by the way, getting help also can mean if you're the one taking care of your parent, is taking breaks, is going away, is taking time off, is going to buy an ice cream, is going for a walk, is taking 2 hours off and getting somebody like to replace you for those hours, is not doing
mhm,
nighttime
mhm.
shifts because you need to sleep. If it makes
Right.
you feel like a better person, if you're going to be able to be on top of it more, if you get those breaks, then please take them. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're not a good enough child if you're not 24/7 around your parents.
When This actually ties into the other 2 points I wanted to bring up. When I ended up going to the States twice, because the information that I got, um, May of 2013, was, we're not really sure how, you should probably come in. And I was there for 3 weeks. And I was ready somewhere in my head to be in that hospital room every minute of the day. I mean, I was realistic. Like, I could go get something to eat. I could, friends were coming to support my mom and to support me, go to the bathroom, which I know may sound silly to bring up, but sometimes people really do forget. But I was going to be in that hospital room every day. And at the time, I had friends who lived in the States, who lived in Israel, who lived in California, who lived in Canada, and England. I got international pressure, literally international pressure, by people who care about me, who said you can't be there all the time. And I did a lot of, I'll be fine. And they said, no, you won't. I want you to get out of the hospital room. And I took one day, and it felt And I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I felt like, oh my gosh, I came from Israel. I spent all this time and the da 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 da. How can I? And then I let myself do it because I also knew that if I said I hadn't done it, I was going to get yelled at by people who love me, friends, relatives, etc. And I took myself out to lunch. I bought a magazine. I stood in Walgreens and CVS. I did not do anything particularly fancy. I just stared at pretty, I loved, all the pretty colors of makeup. And I just looked at pretty nail polishes. I didn't buy one. I remember that. I didn't buy a single one. But I just looked at the way I used to shop or the way I used to look at things. I bought another magazine. I got a soda, a snack, whatever. I wasn't in the hospital all day long. I remember thinking that maybe I have to go tonight. And my best friend spoke to me in a way that only my best friend can. Said, "No, you're not coming back. Nope, nope, nope. That's not happening. Nope, nope, nope." Because when I did go back, I remember also it was a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday, and I was on Kings Highway, and I remember that when I went back Thursday, I felt a little bit better. Did I feel great? No, I knew why I was in New York, but I felt a little bit more like me. I could read the same magazine 12 times because, what else are you going to do? I just enjoyed the experience of walking around and not hearing the beeping of somebody's hospital, whatever. And I didn't have to make any decisions that day. My phone was on, but my biggest decision was, do I get that magazine or that magazine? Do I really want onions or should I just get the whatever it was? So doing that helped immensely. In terms of how you perceive of taking care of your parents too, I think your general outlook on life is going to play a part. If you are a doom and gloom kind of person, and everyone can be whatever perspective they have, but if in general, oh my gosh, she's sick, it's all over, oh my gosh, the world is going to come to an end, then that's probably how you're going to handle the whole thing. The whole process. It takes some, and this is my third point, some level of preparedness to go with your general outlook. So I'm not saying if you're always, sad and anxious, you should suddenly be happy and say, wow, everything's great. No, it's not fun when you have to make these kinds of decisions for your parents. Excuse me. But between knowing you're going to have to ask some questions, you're going to need to be prepared. Who needs to do what? Okay, I'm going to do this. My brother will take care of that. Okay, uncle, this is going to, okay, great. You called the doctor? Awesome. Who got the pills? Great. Right. Get some level of preparedness to the extent that you can prepare, and you can't prepare for everything, but do your best. That will help your general outlook, because if things are in some semblance of order, some semblance of place, you can function better. You can go out and get a third magazine if you really want to, and not feel, oh my gosh, I'm just this terrible person. Last thing I'll add, just in terms of the mitzvah, the obligation part. I know that from the religious perspective, some people will say, it's your parents. What do you mean, should I take care? Should I be there? It's your parents. You have to be there. And there's a little bit of truth and a lot of bit of truth, maybe in everything, in most things. Let me not go overboard. But you have to also take care of yourself. And that doesn't only mean taking yourself out to lunch and walking around CVS. It also means taking care of your mental health. It means stepping away and remembering who you are, because you are not only the caregiver, somebody's mom or dad, somebody's daughter or son, somebody's power of attorney. You're you in all of the ways and various roles that you are. You have to take care of yourself. If you don't, you will lose yourself. And I'm telling you, from a professional perspective and a personal perspective, you're not really much of a help to anybody when you don't know your first name, when you're so tired and you're grumpy and you're aggravated, and another doctor. I mean, you get asked the same question by a lot of different doctors. I mean, I had met with one doctor, and then another resident came and said, ma'am, can you tell me about your mother's medical history? And I laughed. I actually laughed. Like, are you must I've answered this question 15 times. What's your mom's medical history? I don't know. She just came here for a vacation. I was snippy. I was annoyed. Like, just read the darn chart. What are you doing? Right? So I'm not saying that I wouldn't have done that even if I were a little bit more awake, I'll admit. But it may have I would have had a little bit more patience and realized, okay, student doctor, breathe, breathe, breathe. If I don't know, I'd gotten a little bit more sleep the night before or had some protein the night before. So just in terms of the mitzvah, yes, it is a mitzvah, kibbud av aim, to respect your parents, take care of your parents in whatever shape, condition you need to. You also have to be realistic about what you can handle. You have to be realistic about your relationship and what you can give. And you have to be realistic about what you can handle and what supports you may need to bring in. And if you have stuff that is weighing on you in terms of your relationship with your parents, I'd love to be able to say just go to therapy and fix it. That is not how the real world works. But I will say, even if it's a matter of making a decision about the care of your parents or not, do the best you can to address those issues, because you deserve to feel a little lighter. You deserve to not have to have that have that burden on you. Um, because that'll also help your health, your general health too. So
Absolutely. I think,
um,
I mean, we're coming to the end and I'd like to wrap it up. So I think if we, if we can sort of, in a nutshell, end the discussion with what we just said, I think the feelings that one feels when taking care of a parent, privilege, burden, um, heartache, whatever, is waves. You feel sometimes like this, sometimes like that, sometimes like the other, and it's all normal and fine. Don't beat yourself up
all
about
okay.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is sometimes taking care of a parent doesn't mean that you yourself have to do the job. It could also mean delegating it to
Mm-hmm.
others or delegating to a caregiving service. It doesn't necessarily mean it's you. And even when you delegate, sometimes it's okay to say, I need a time off. I need to do something else. I need to, you know, up my battery, so to speak. And I think the main thing is also to realize that you are a person also, and it is okay. It is okay to
Mm-hmm.
feel whatever it is that you feel. It is okay to say, I can't do this. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you yourself are not taking care of them. And
Right.
it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you're not doing it 24/7.
The same way that, if you've ever had more than one child that you've had to do carpool with, or meal preparation, right? Or this one needs clothing for school, this one needs money for this program, don't forget the books, oh my gosh, did you do the homework, right? There's a point where hopefully the kids are old enough to do a little bit of that. They can't drive themselves to school, but maybe your husband or your partner or your spouse or your whoever needs to help you do that. You call the lady down the block. You got carpool today? Awesome, great. Did you make lunch? Shoot, I didn't get bologna. Can someone go out and get? Everyone gets a role. This is a group activity. I don't think that realistically, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but realistically, I don't think that it's the expectation that the mom or the dad are going to do everything. It's a group effort. Now, you may feel like you have the wind knocked out of you when all is said and done, but none of those people who help, or none of that asking for help, means clearly you don't love your children. You may be frustrated. You may be like, did you seriously not tell me about the book like 10 minutes before you have to go to school? Yeah, you can be frustrated. You can be annoyed. You can even say, don't do this again. You're allowed to do that. Keep yourself in check, but that doesn't mean, oh, now you're the worst parent in the world. Same thing with an elder who you're taking care of, even if, again, everything within reason, even if they have a mental health issue or they're declining or deteriorating. If somebody can't walk fast, I wouldn't say get behind them and go, come on, speed it up. Don't do that. Don't be obnoxious. Don't be mean. But if you feel like, oh my God, it's so hard to watch, I just want them to move quicker, think it. It's okay. It's okay to think it. It's okay. Do the best, most honorable, most respectful you can do for them and for yourself, because that also goes a really long way.
I think that's a really good way to end that.
So awesome.
Well, Rachel, as always,
Yes.
it has been
Yes.
extremely, extremely informative and really, really nice
Thank
talking
you very
to you.
much. You too. We should do this. Oh, we're going to do this again.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do this again, guys.
Okay.
So, if you have, first of all, if you have any questions for Rachel,
Mhm.
how can people talk to you or be in touch with you?
Sure. So you can email me at rweinstein, spelled like Weinstein, RWEINSTEINMSW at gmail.com. And you can call or WhatsApp at 052. I have to do the numbers in English, 874-5589. So 052-874-5589.
Brilliant. Okay, guys.
Awesome.
And in the meantime, have a good night. And don't
Thanks, you
forget to
too.
share this talk with anybody you feel could benefit from it. And looking forward to see you guys in our next talk when we're discussing caring for an aging parent.
Awesome. All right.
Bye, Rachel.
Bye-bye. Bye.